I was 34 the last time I ever trusted my gut enough to stop at a roadside motel without checking the reviews. Maybe I'd have still done it if I'd seen the stars and the little cursive notes about bedbugs and flickering lights. Maybe none of that would have made a difference. Because when you've been driving 12 hours straight in Appalachian backcountry, chasing a delivery schedule that's already off by half a day, and every detour leads you farther from anything that resembles paved civilization, a neon sign that simply says vacancy becomes less of an option and more of a lifeline. It started simple. I'd been hired to haul some old courthouse files from Harwood, Virginia, to a state records archive down near Tellico Plains in Tennessee. A job like that doesn't come with glamour, but it paid clean. My plan was to pick up the boxes by noon, hit the backroads, and be home by midnight. But then the storms came. Not just any storms, either. These were the kind of angry, slow-moving beasts that hang over the ridges like they're waiting for something. Trees bent sideways under sheets of rain. Bridges washed out. Routes detoured again and again until I was snaking along roads I didn't recognize, narrow lanes with more gravel than asphalt and names I'd never seen on any map. By late evening, the sky was a deep purple bruise and the woods had closed in so tight around the road that I kept expecting branches to reach inside the cab. My GPS gave up 5 miles ago. I blinked too long at a stop sign and nearly nodded off. That's when I saw it. A crooked neon sign buzzing like it had a cold, throwing out this weak pink light that barely managed to cut through the dusk. Mapler Crest Motel. Vacancy. I pulled in. The gravel crunched like brittle bones under my tires. The lot was almost empty. A few cars sat spaced far apart like they were avoiding each other. The building itself was a squat one-story strip with peeling mustard-colored paint and old wooden doors. The kind of place that hadn't seen an upgrade since the Carter administration. I should have kept going. I know that now. But I didn't. I grabbed my duffel from the passenger seat, locking the truck out of habit, though I doubted anyone out here had a taste for stolen records and half-eaten beef jerky. The air was thick, wet, but not with rain. It smelled wrong. Not rotting. Exactly, not sulfurous either. Just off. Like copper and mildew and something too old to name. The lobby bell didn't ring when I opened the door. It just creaked like a throat clearing in the dark. The inside looked like a time capsule from the 70s. Yellow wallpaper curling at the edges. A stained coffee pot sitting cold on a warped credenza. A dusty painting of a buck mid-leap hung behind the reception desk, and under it, a bell that looked older than the motel itself. I rang it. Ding. No response. I was about to ring again when the man stepped out from the back. He was tall. Lanky. His uniform shirt was faded and threadbare, with a crooked name tag that said, Roy, in script too fancy for his dull eyes. He looked at me like I'd interrupted something he wasn't finished with. You need a room? He asked, voice gravelly, as if amused. Yeah, I said. Just for the night. He nodded slowly, reaching under the counter and pulling out a brass key on a braided fob. No computers. No ID asked. Just a slip of paper with my name and plate number. Room 9, he said. End of the row. Don't park in front of 10. That last bit hung heavy. Why not? He didn't answer. Just stared. Then, as if remembering something that irritated him, he muttered, people in 10 don't like being bothered. I almost laughed, assuming it was some kind of joke, some inside local weirdness. But Roy wasn't smiling. I took the key, nodding. As I stepped back into the humid night, I looked toward room 10. The blinds were shut. But there was movement. Just a flicker. Like someone pacing behind them. Or watching. I found room 9 easily. It looked like all the others, door warped from moisture, paint chipped, brass number barely hanging on. Inside. The room was what you'd expect, old comforter, loud AC unit in the wall humming like it was dying, carpet stiff with age. But it was clean enough. No stains on the sheets. No crawling bugs. Just that smell again. Stronger now. Metallic and sour. I shrugged it off. I was too tired to care. I showered, letting the rust-colored water run over me. Tried not to think about the pipes groaning like something was breathing behind the walls. Afterwards, I fell into bed, letting the static of the TV lull me. That's when the tapping started. It came from the wall. Soft. Deliberate. Tap. 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 At first, I thought it was the AC. Then it moved. Higher. Closer to the headboard. Tap. Tap. I turned off the TV. Sat up. The tapping stopped. I pressed my ear to the wall between room 9 and 10. Nothing. Just the low hum of distant cicadas. I laughed at myself. Get a grip, man, I muttered. But I couldn't shake it. That feeling. Like I wasn't alone in that room. Like the air itself was watching. That night, I dreamed of a girl standing in the woods. Pale. Mouth sewn shut with black thread. Eyes wide and empty. When I woke up gasping, the sun wasn't up yet. But something had changed. The door was open. Not just unlocked. Open. Just a crack. Enough for something to slip through. I didn't remember unlocking the door. I sure as hell didn't remember getting up to open it. But there it was, just slightly ajar. Like someone had come in and forgotten to close it all the way. Or worse, had meant to leave it that way. I got out of bed slowly. The air felt different. Colder, despite the AC still rattling on. It smelled like damp wood and copper pennies. That same strange stink from earlier, sharper now, almost clinging to the back of my throat. I walked to the door and nudged it shut with my foot. Locking it. Then I engaged the deadbolt, slid the chain across, and double-checked the handle. Still shaky, I went to the bathroom, splashed water on my face. When I looked up, the mirror had fogged over. That didn't make sense. I hadn't run hot water. Still, the glass was coated in a slow swirl of mist, like someone had just breathed on it. At first I thought it was my own reflection playing tricks on me. But then I saw it. Something had been drawn into the condensation. A circle, smeared by a fingertip. Inside the circle, a single word scrawled backwards, so I had to squint and read it in reverse. Stay. My blood turned to ice. I stood there, motionless, staring. The word began to fade as the condensation slowly evaporated. I wiped the mirror clean with a towel and leaned in, half expecting something to jump back at me from the reflection. But there was only me, wide-eyed, breathing hard, trying to pretend this wasn't happening. I didn't sleep again that night. When the first light crept through the curtains, I threw on my jeans and boots, packed my things in silence, and opened the door. And found a dead bird on the welcome mat. Its neck was twisted, wings broken at unnatural angles. But the strangest thing was that its eyes had been sewn shut. With thread. Black, coarse, like fishing line. Just like the girl from my dream. I gagged. Something about that bird, it wasn't just dead. It had been posed. Left there. For me. I didn't go to the front desk. Didn't say goodbye to Roy. I just tossed the key on the nightstand and hurried to my truck, shoving the duffel into the cab like it might protect me. My hand was shaking when I turned the key in the ignition. But the engine didn't start. It clicked. Then nothing. Clicked again. Dead. That truck had never failed me. Not once. But now, in front of that cursed motel, it was lifeless. Like something had reached into its guts and pulled the spark clean out. I sat behind the wheel, trying not to panic. Then I caught movement in the rearview mirror. Room 10's door was open. Just a crack. Like mine had been. And standing just inside was a figure. Tall. Still. Watching. I couldn't see their face. The figure in room 10 stood just beyond the threshold. Swallowed in shadow. No movement. No gesture. Just watching. I looked away for half a second, just long enough to blink, to force a breath into my chest, and when I looked back, the door was closed. My mouth had gone dry. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, loud and uneven. I tried the ignition again. Click. Nothing. One more time, click click. Still nothing. That was it. I wasn't staying another damn minute sitting in that parking lot waiting for whatever the hell that was. I grabbed my phone, praying for a signal. 1 bar. Barely. I called AAA. It rang. Then dropped. I cursed. Tried again. This time, it connected, but the voice on the other end was garbled, static like a dying radio, words I couldn't make out, then silence. Dead line. It was like the world had conspired to trap me there. I got out of the truck and slammed the door shut. The breeze had picked up, warm and sickly, carrying with it the scent of something old and wet, like leaves rotting in a cellar. And under that, beneath the earthy rot, something faintly sweet. Almost like perfume. Lilac. It came from room 10. I started walking. I don't know why. Curiosity. Defiance. Or maybe because a part of me knew I wasn't getting out of there until I understood what was happening. The gravel shifted under my boots as I approached. The other rooms were quiet. No sounds of TV or conversation. No other guests stirring. It was like I was the only living thing left on the entire row. I stopped outside room 10. The door was closed, but the scent was stronger now, clinging to the wood like sweat. I raised my hand to knock, and hesitated. The doorknob twitched. Not turned. Twitched. I backed up so fast I nearly tripped. Behind me, I heard the lobby door creak open. I turned. Roy stood there. Still. Blank. He didn't yell at me. Didn't ask what I was doing. He just said, "They don't like being disturbed." I swallowed hard. "There's someone in there," I said, pointing toward 10. Roy didn't look. He didn't have to. "There was," he said softly. I waited for more. For anything. But Roy turned around and walked back into the lobby, letting the door swing closed behind him. I heard the lock slide into place. It was barely 7 a.m., but I felt like I'd already lived through a nightmare. I returned to room 9, too rattled to think. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. The tapping was back. Tap. 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 Same rhythm. Same spot. I pressed my hand to the drywall. Cold. Then, I don't know what compelled me, I knocked back. 3 times. Tap. 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 There was a pause. Then the wall knocked back. But not in rhythm. This time, it was. Tap. Tap. Tap tap. It mimicked my knock. Almost exactly. I froze. And then, from the other side, a voice. Faint. Female. Don't go. Please. The voice was barely audible. Like it had traveled through layers of dust, time, and drywall. Faint, but urgent. Young. I leaned in. Hello? I whispered, unsure if I even wanted an answer. Nothing. I pressed my ear to the wall again. Tap, tap, tap. This time it was faster, frantic, like fingernails drumming. I stepped back. My hands were sweating. I looked at the wall like it might bleed or breathe. Every fiber in me screamed to get out, grab your bag, run into the woods if you have to, just leave. But I didn't. Instead, I crouched down and knocked again. Softly. Who's there? Silence. Then, a sudden gust of wind rattled the window. The curtains fluttered. I stood up and turned, startled. That's when I saw it. A handprint. On the inside of the glass. Small. Delicate. Fingers long and thin. Like a child's. I stared, heart hammering, and slowly reached out. My hand hovered next to it, my fingers dwarfed by how fragile the other one looked. The room went still. No wind. No hum from the AC. Even the tapping had stopped. Just silence. Then came the voice again, clearer this time, not through the wall, but from inside the room. She's coming. I spun around. No one was there. Just the bathroom door, half open now. I hadn't touched it. I walked toward it slowly. Step by step. The air in the bathroom was cold. Colder than it should have been, like winter had slipped through the cracks of summer. The mirror was fogged again. But this time, there wasn't a word. There was a face. Not mine. She stood behind me, pale skin, dark hollow eyes, lips pulled tight. Thread still visible around the corners of her mouth, black and rotted. Her hair hung in damp strands around her shoulders, like she'd just crawled out of water. I turned around, no one. When I looked back, the mirror was clear. No fog. No face. I stumbled out of the bathroom, breathing hard, clutching my chest. I felt like I was losing time. Like the room was feeding on my thoughts. I grabbed my phone again. Still no signal. I opened my camera, thinking I could at least record something, to prove I wasn't losing it. When the camera opened, I pointed it at the wall where the tapping had come from. And on the screen, there was a door. Not a real one. Not visible to the naked eye. But the camera showed it. In the exact place the sound had come from, a door with strange, ornate carvings, half-rotted wood, and something red seeping from underneath. I looked up, nothing there. I looked back at the screen, the door was opening. Slow. Agonizingly slow. Darkness spilled out from the crack. A shape stood just beyond. And then my phone shut off. Just died. That's when the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then went out. Leaving me in complete darkness. Except for the voice. Now right next to me. Help me. The whisper was right beside my ear. So close I felt the breath. So close it should have come with warmth. But all I felt was cold. I spun around, heart slamming in my chest, but there was nothing. Just the pitch-dark room. The only sound was my own ragged breathing. I fumbled for my phone, hoping it had somehow powered back on. I pressed the button. Nothing. Dead. I backed toward the motel room door. Hands stretched out in front of me like a blind man in a mine shaft. I found the knob, twisted it, and yanked. It didn't budge. Deadbolt? No. I never locked it. I twisted again, harder. The knob refused to turn any further, like it had fused into the door itself. I pounded on it, kicked it, threw my shoulder into it. Nothing. Then I heard it again. Scraping. From the wall. The spot where the invisible door had been in the camera. Fingernails. Dragging. slow and deliberate. Then. Thud. Something slammed against the wall. Once. Then again. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. On the third hit, the drywall cracked. Right where the door had appeared. I could see the fracture split the paint like a wound opening up. Then. A piece of plaster fell off. Behind it was wood. Rotten, splintered wood. A hidden doorframe. Buried beneath layers of wall and silence. I was still staring, rooted to the floor. When the bathroom light flickered on by itself. But it wasn't the same bathroom. No mirror. No sink. Just a narrow hallway stretching where the bathroom had been. Long flickering. Damp. And at the end of it. A figure. Small. Barefoot. A girl in a white dress, stained at the hem. Her hair hung straight and wet, her hands at her sides. Head tilted. And over her mouth. Crude black stitching. Thick thread. Tight. She didn't move. Didn't blink. But I could feel her looking at me. Through me. Then, without warning, the hallway snapped shut. Like a switch flipped. The bathroom was back. Mirror. Sink. Tile. But something was left behind. On the tile floor, just beyond the threshold. A single shoelace. Knotted tightly. Threaded with black stitching. I picked it up, trembling. And that's when I noticed. The number 10 carved into the tile beneath it. I held the shoelace in my hand, frayed, damp, knotted with thick black stitching. The threads felt like hair. Old. Tangled. Wrong. And beneath my feet, etched deep into the tile like someone had scratched it out with their fingernails. 10. Room 10. I stood slowly. Heart pounding, staring at the bathroom that was now back to normal, mirror, sink, plain white tile. No hallway. No girl. No flickering light. But something had changed. The silence wasn't just silence anymore. It was watching me. I stepped out into the main room, every creak of the floorboards under my feet sounding like a scream. The air had gone heavy, pressurized. Like I was standing in the eye of a storm that hadn't hit yet. Then I saw it again. The wall. The same wall where I'd heard the tapping. The wall where my camera had shown a door that shouldn't exist. Only now, it was no longer hiding. A jagged crack ran through the plaster. The drywall had peeled in a crescent arc. Like a wound forced open. I could see old wood underneath, rotting, splintered, bleeding with rust. I walked toward it slowly. Compelled. Terrified. And just as I reached out. A scream. Muffled. Distant. But not that distant. It came from behind the wall. I stumbled back, knocking into the dresser. My breath caught in my throat. My skin burned with the instinct to run. But my legs wouldn't move. Then. The door to room 10 creaked open. All on its own. I turned. The hallway outside was black. Not dark, black. Heavy. Like a curtain of smoke that absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. It poured from the open door like ink, swallowing everything in its path. I took a step back. And then I heard it. A scraping sound. Wet. Dragging. Then a creak. Then, flesh on wood. I looked toward room 10 again. Something was coming out. First a hand. Then an elbow. And then. A woman. Crawling. Not walking. Not standing. Crawling on all fours. Her limbs bent at impossible angles, elbows twisted backward like broken marionette joints. Her hair hung in wet strings over her face. And her skin. Pale. Gray. Paper thin. She didn't have eyes. Just sockets. And her mouth. Her lips had been stitched shut. Just like the little girl's. But her stitches were tearing. Splitting. Oozing. She tilted her head toward me. She knew me. She didn't speak. Not yet. She just stared, those hollow sockets somehow still locked onto me. Then her mouth burst open. The stitches snapped one by one, like piano wire under strain. And from that torn, gaping maw, she rasped. "It's not dead. It's waiting, for the next one." I didn't scream. I wanted to. My throat was raw from holding it back, like the sound was a living thing trying to crawl out. The woman, that thing, kept crawling toward me, hands dragging her twisted body across the floor. Each movement was slow, deliberate, almost rehearsed. The stitched mouth hung open now, threads dangling like severed nerves. Her voice echoed through the room, low, breathless, wrong. "The next one has to open the door." I backed away, tripping over the nightstand, my elbow slamming into the floor. Pain exploded in my arm, but I didn't care. I crab-walked backward. Eyes locked on hers, or where her eyes should have been. She stopped moving. Just inches from my feet. Then she collapsed. Limp. Her head hit the carpet with a soft thud, and her body just stopped. Like the strings were cut. Like something else had let go of her. I lay there, breathing hard, heart jackhammering in my chest. And then my phone lit up. Out of nowhere. The screen was on. Full battery. No missed calls. No alerts. But the camera app was open. Recording. I hadn't touched it. The lens was aimed at the broken wall. And on the screen. The door was there again. Clearer than ever. Old wood. Iron handle. Carved markings that hadn't been there before. Runes. Symbols that pulsed faintly like veins beneath the surface. And above the doorframe. A phrase scratched in crooked, desperate letters. "Do not open unless you are ready to stay." Suddenly, my phone glitched, froze, then flashed white. The screen filled with static. And then a new image appeared. A video. I didn't press play. It just started. The camera view was shaky, pointed at the same room I was in, but from years ago. The furniture was different. Older. Dustier. And in the center of the frame. A man. Maybe in his 30s. Sitting on the bed. Terrified. He was crying, whispering something over and over. I turned up the volume. "She won't let me go." I tried not to see it. I shouldn't have answered the knock. Suddenly, the door behind him slammed open. And something dragged him off camera. The last thing visible was his phone dropping to the floor, screen facing up. Recording. And on that phone screen, for just a second, I saw my own face staring back. Watching him. From the other side. I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor but didn't break, just spun on its side, the screen still glowing, showing nothing now but static. I couldn't move. Not right away. My mind was trying to keep up with something it couldn't understand, like watching a car crash in reverse and still feeling the impact. Why did that man's phone show me? Why did I look older? Why did I look dead? A soft thump pulled me out of my thoughts. The woman's body. Gone. No trail. No blood. Just a faint, dark stain where her head had hit the carpet. And the smell. Like mildew mixed with something burnt. Like old skin. I stumbled to my feet. The door on the wall, the one I could only see through my phone before, was now fully there. In the real world. Wooden frame. Iron hinges. And the runes above it, glowing faint orange, like embers trying not to die. I took one step forward. The room got colder. Not drafty, dead cold. The kind that slips inside your bones and reminds you what fear tastes like. Then I heard it. Knocking. Not from the motel room door. From inside the hidden door. 3 slow, solid knocks. Measured. Heavy. Like something that knew I was there. I swallowed. My voice cracked as I whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. Just silence. Then, from behind me, clear as day. "You know who." I spun. No one. But something had changed. The motel room wasn't the same. The wallpaper was peeling. The carpet stained with something dark and crusted. Furniture warped. The walls breathed. I wasn't just in room 10 anymore. I was in its memory. And it remembered everything. The phone buzzed violently on the floor. I picked it up with trembling hands. It had one notification. An airdrop request. The file name? Come through.mov. I didn't press accept. It played anyway. And there I was, walking through the hidden door. Reaching for the handle. Eyes empty. Expression slack. But I was filming myself. Like I wanted someone to see. The video ended with one word written in blood across the lens. Stay. And then the real door handle started turning. The handle turned slowly. Metal scraped against metal. Deliberate. Intentional. Hungry. I stepped back, heart pounding like fists against my ribs. Don't open it. Don't open it. Don't. Click. The door didn't swing wide. It opened just enough. Enough for something to peek through. Darkness. Not the kind that comes with night or power outages. This was alive. Swirling. Moving. Like it was waiting for me to notice it. I held my breath. Then, a voice whispered through the crack. My voice. You already opened it. You just haven't walked through yet. I froze. Was this a hallucination? A trick? A loop I was too far into to escape? I glanced at my phone again. The screen was still on. Only now it showed the live feed from the camera, pointed directly at the door. And behind the door, something was standing. Tall. Thin. Its silhouette shifted, as if constantly rearranging. Arms too long. Head tilted too far. And no face. Not blank. Just, missing. The image glitched, spiked with digital static, then cleared. The thing stepped closer. Even though I hadn't moved. It was closer to me. I looked up from the phone. There was nothing in the doorway now. But the door was wider. The gap larger. Inviting. And then I felt it. A pull. Not physical. Like gravity for the soul. My body inched forward even as my mind screamed to stop. I tried to turn around, to run, to grab the handle of the real motel room door and break it down if I had to. But it wasn't there anymore. The door I came in through. Gone. Sealed. Only the hidden door remained. Room 10 had closed itself off from the world. I was in its domain now. The light in the room began to fade, bulbs dimming, air thickening. The shadows stretched. And that's when I heard them. Whispers. Hundreds of them. Layered. Echoing. All around me. I turned in a slow circle. Voices came from the walls, the floor, the air itself. He stayed too long. She made him look. It always starts with the knock. Nobody leaves after the 10th door. You're next, you're next, you're. Bang. The hidden door slammed shut. I was alone in the dark. Or so I thought. Until I felt breath on the back of my neck. And something whispered in my ear. Welcome back. I spun around. Nothing. Just darkness. Thick, suffocating darkness that felt wet. Like the inside of a lung. I reached for my phone, gone. Either I dropped it, or it vanished. It didn't matter. This place didn't need cameras to watch me. It was the camera. Every step I took echoed forever. But there were no walls. No floor. Just space. Hollow and endless. Then. A light. Small. Flickering. Up ahead. I walked. Drawn like a moth. As I got closer, I could make out what it was, a motel lobby. Familiar, but wrong. The colors were washed out, like an old VHS tape left in the sun. The clock behind the counter was spinning backwards. The bell on the front desk rattled by itself. There was a woman standing behind it. Hair up in a tight bun. Pale hands. A name tag on her blouse that read simply. Mother. She didn't look up. Didn't move. I stepped closer. Her head jerked up like it was yanked. Her eyes were all pupil. No iris. No whites. Welcome to Maple Crest, she said, voice flat. Mechanical. How many nights will you be staying? I didn't answer. Couldn't. My tongue felt nailed to the roof of my mouth. She smiled. Tight-lipped. Too wide. You already made your reservation. She whispered. You just forgot. But don't worry, we never cancel. Behind her, the wall opened. Not a door. Just peeled away, revealing a long hallway that twisted at impossible angles. It bent upward, like a spiral staircase made of motel rooms and rotten teeth. Each door had a number. All of them were 10. Over and over. Room 10. Room 10. Room 10. Endless. Each door whispered. Each door bled. And one of them was open. The woman, Mother, reached under the desk and pulled out something wrapped in yellowed fabric. She held it out to me. I didn't take it. She forced it into my hands. It was warm. Damp. I unwrapped it. A key. Old brass. Tag attached. Stamped in faded red ink. Room 0. I looked up. The hallway was gone. Only one door remained now. Not room 10. Room 0. It stood alone in a vast, empty corridor that hadn't been there a moment ago. A sound came from behind the door. Crying. Soft. Childlike. Then a whisper. Please, let me out. I don't want to stay anymore. I knew that voice. It was mine. My hand tightened around the key. Heavy. Warm. Like it had a pulse of its own. Room 0. I stepped forward. The hallway seemed to breathe with me, walls expanding and contracting, like lungs too tired to keep going but too afraid to stop. The closer I got to the door, the louder the crying became. My crying. Not the voice I had now, but younger. Raw. Fractured. Like a child left behind. The key fit the lock perfectly. I paused, hand resting on the knob. Trying to convince myself none of this was real. But everything in me knew the truth. This was more real than anything outside. I turned the key. Click. The door creaked open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. No windows. No furniture. Just a single mirror on the wall. And in front of the mirror, a boy. Knees to chest. Barefoot. Wearing a faded red hoodie I hadn't seen in years. My red hoodie. He looked up. It was me. Not just similar. Not just familiar. Me, at maybe 8 or 9 years old. Same scar above the eyebrow. Same uneven ears. Same look of constant, bone-deep fear. You came back, the boy whispered. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. He stood and walked to me, eyes wide. I waited so long. His hands were shaking. She said you wouldn't. That you were too far gone. I finally managed to find my voice. Who said that? The boy pointed to the mirror. I turned. The reflection showed us both standing there, but the room behind us was different. Blackened. Ash-covered. And someone else stood in the reflection, though no one stood there in the real room. A woman. Tall. Thin. Her face hidden behind a porcelain mask with no mouth, only cracks where a smile should have been. And in her hand, a string. Tied around the boy's neck. He didn't seem to notice. But I did. And when I looked closer, I realized. The string was tied around my neck too. I reached up. But it wasn't just string. It was hair. Long black. Tied tight like a leash. And the woman in the mirror tilted her head, watching me. The boy began to cry. She said I was the first, but not the only. She keeps us here. Until we forget what the world felt like. I dropped to one knee. No, you're not staying here. I'll get you out. He looked at me with something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. But the moment that flickered into his eyes. The mirror shattered. Glass exploded outward. The woman's hand shot out from the frame, grabbing the boy's shoulder. He screamed. I grabbed his arm. Pulling hard, as the mirror rippled like water, trying to drag him through. No. I roared. You're not taking him. The hair tightened around my throat. The reflection of me was choking. Gasping. Eyes bulging. But in the real world, I held on. One final yank. And the boy flew into my arms, the mirror letting go with a sound like snapping bone. He sobbed into my chest, trembling. Behind us, the door slammed shut. And for the first time, I realized there were two shadows on the wall now. We sat there in silence. My arms wrapped around the boy, me, but smaller. Fragile. I could feel his heartbeat, racing like a rabbit's, beneath his ribs. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need to. I knew what he was feeling. Because I was feeling it too. The room remained silent, except for our breathing and the faint, distant creak of something large shifting. Like the building was adjusting. Watching. I stood slowly. Keeping one arm around the boy. We need to leave. He looked up at me. There's no way out. I shook my head. There has to be. But as I turned toward the door, the walls breathed again. The handle was gone. The door was gone. In its place, a hallway, long and stretching far beyond what the building should have allowed. Fluorescent lights overhead buzzed with sickly yellow light. And worse, the signs were back. Only this time, they weren't numbers. They were memories. Room to the left. First time you lied. Room to the right. The night you wished he'd died. Down the hall. Where you let it happen. Each door had a handle made of bone. Each one pulsed faintly like it had its own heartbeat. I felt the boy tremble. She makes you go through them. One by one. If you try to run, she starts over. He nodded. The mother. That name again. Who is she? He looked at me with hollow eyes. She's what's left after you forget how to love something. I wanted to vomit. Instead, I turned away from the hallway. And behind me, the wall had changed. Now it was a mirror again, but this time cracked, showing dozens of reflections of me. Older. Younger. Twisted. In some, I was screaming. In others, I was smiling with no eyes. In one, I was dragging the boy behind me by the hair, back into the mirror. No, I whispered. No, no, no. The boy buried his face in my shirt. You promised. And that broke something in me. A thread pulled tight for too many years. I lifted him up. I did, I said. So let's burn this place down. I walked to the hallway. Past the doors. Past the memories. Past the fear. And at the very end, there it was. Room mother. Not a number. Just a door with that word carved into the wood, as if scratched by fingernails over centuries. It was cracked open. Waiting. And behind it. Lullabies. Off-key. Wrong. Like a music box left too long in the rain. I stepped forward. The boy whispered, once we go in, she sees everything. I nodded. Let her. The door to room mother creaked open without me touching it. The hinges didn't scream like they should have. Instead, they sighed, like something tired was finally exhaling. Inside. Darkness again. But not empty. It felt full. Like walking into a church where something had gone terribly wrong a long time ago, and the air still remembered. The boy gripped my hand tighter. She's awake. I stepped inside anyway. The door closed behind us with a soft click, polite, almost gentle. Like a courtesy before a killing. The room was massive. Bigger than it could be. Walls stretched upward into black nothingness. No floor, just a surface like mirror water, rippling beneath our feet but holding us somehow. We didn't cast reflections. In the center stood a crib. Old. Splintered. Charred at the edges like it had survived a fire, or caused one. Inside the crib, wrapped in blood-stained blankets, was a shape. Not a baby. Not exactly. It breathed. But too slowly. It twitched, but without rhythm. And from behind us, the voice came. Why did you leave me? I turned. There she was. Mother. Tall. Dressed in black that rippled like oil. Face still hidden behind that porcelain mask. No eyes. No mouth. Just a single crack down the middle, dripping something red and alive. The boy let go of my hand. She spoke again. Though her mouth never moved. Her voice wasn't in the air. It was in me. You forgot us. You buried us. You made a life without us. The boy stepped toward her. I grabbed his shoulder. No, don't. But he looked up at me. Calm now. She's not just the motel. She's what you left behind. I blinked. The room began to shift. The crib disappeared. Replaced by my childhood bedroom. Wallpaper peeling. Old nightlight still plugged in. Closet door slightly ajar. The boy walked toward it. Inside the closet, a mirror. He touched it. And his hand passed through. This is where you split. Where you started hiding the worst parts. She lives in the cracks. I couldn't breathe. I saw flashes. The accident. The screaming. The moment I let go of the steering wheel. You blamed everyone else. But you knew, he said. You always knew. My knees gave out. I hit the floor that wasn't a floor. The woman, mother, stepped closer. Still no face. But I felt her smile. Rotting and satisfied. "You're not here to save him," she said. "You're here because you finally remembered what you did." She raised a hand. The mirror in the closet cracked. The room fell away. Back to darkness. Back to that endless void. The boy was gone. So was she. I was alone again. And in the distance, echoing softly, a baby crying. The crying echoed through the dark. Not sharp. Not panicked. Just slow, steady. Like sorrow that had accepted itself. I stood, unsure of how long I'd been kneeling. The void around me pulsed like a heartbeat. No stars. No floor. Just me, the sound of crying, and the unbearable weight of memory pressing against my ribs. I started walking. Each step echoed. Not outward, but inward, like they fell into me. The farther I walked, the clearer the sound became. Not a baby. A child. "Don't forget me." A whisper, woven into the sobs. The air thickened. Shapes emerged around me, barely their silhouettes of rooms. Each one familiar. My first apartment. My college dorm. The hospital waiting room. But all of them were wrong. Warped. Melted at the edges like wax left too close to flame. Time didn't live here. Grief did. I passed a room where my father sat in silence, staring at a wall. Another where my mother screamed. Throwing plates that never shattered. And there, ahead of me, the motel lobby. But empty now. No clerk. No keys. Just the sound of the child's crying behind the front desk. I stepped behind it. And found a hole in the floor. Circular. Carved perfectly. Descending like a well into absolute darkness. The crying was coming from down there. I didn't think. I jumped. Falling didn't feel like falling. It felt like remembering. And when I landed, I was in the car. The night it happened. Rain smeared across the windshield. Wipers broken. Headlights flickering. Beside me, my brother. Young. Angry. "Just admit it," he shouted. "You shouldn't have been drinking." I looked at my hands. Still trembling from the steering wheel. Still wet from the glass I dropped. "Shut up," I had said then. "You think you're perfect. You're the one who." The light turned red. I didn't stop. The memory had no brakes. The impact came again, like it always did. Metal screaming. Glass exploding. And then, silence. Not death. Not yet. I crawled from the wreck. Looked back. Saw the passenger seat empty. He'd been thrown. The paramedics came. They asked me what happened. And I said. He grabbed the wheel. It wasn't my fault. A lie that grew roots. A lie that built walls. A lie that built the motel. Because pain that has nowhere to go, builds rooms. I dropped to my knees. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm sorry I buried you." The air around me trembled. And from the darkness, a hand reached out. Small. Familiar. The boy. He stepped forward. No longer crying. Just watching. Behind him, the woman, mother, watched too. But her mask had cracked fully now. And beneath it, my face stared back at me from behind her mask. Not an imitation. Not a reflection. It was me, but stretched thin by time, worn down by regret. Aged by something far older than years. Mother wasn't a monster. She was what I became every time I refused to face it. Every time I told myself it wasn't my fault. Every time I shoved it deeper. Covered it with routines, achievements, smiles that never reached my eyes. I stepped closer to her. The porcelain pieces of her mask cracked with each step, falling away like dead skin. Behind it, my own eyes, tired, red-rimmed, swollen with decades of swallowed grief. I whispered, "How do I stop this?" She didn't speak. But the boy, my brother, did. "You already started. You remembered." I dropped to my knees before him. He stood straight. Braver than I'd ever been. "You lied to protect your life," he said. "But you didn't protect me." His voice didn't carry blame. Just sadness. Heavy. Pure. "I was scared," I said. "I thought, if I said it out loud, it would become real." It was already real. Silence wrapped around us like fog. The air in the motel began to change. The dripping stopped. The flickering slowed. The shadows softened. Mother, my shame, stepped back into the darkness, fading like smoke caught in wind. The boy looked up at me. "You can leave. But not through a door." I blinked. "Then how?" He placed his hand over my heart. "You take me with you." A warmth spread from his touch. Not pain. Not fear. Just presence. He began to dissolve into light. Into memory. Into me. And as the last of him vanished, I opened my eyes. I was back in my car. Parked. Empty. Early morning sunlight cut through the mist on the windshield. I was shaking. My face soaked in tears I didn't remember shedding. No sign of the motel. No sign of her. Just the hum of the engine and the dull ache in my chest that had finally turned into something bearable. I looked in the rearview mirror. My eyes were my own. Not hers. I drove. I didn't know where. I just drove, for the first time, without lying to myself. Without running. And for the first time in years. The road didn't look like a loop. It's been 6 years. Most nights, I sleep. Some nights, I don't. There's a quiet that follows you after you've faced the kind of truth that doesn't scream, but whispers from inside mirrors, cracked windshields, and the bottom of whiskey bottles. I haven't been back to that highway. Sometimes I wonder if it even exists. I told people it was a dream. A breakdown. Sleep deprivation, trauma flashback. Stress-induced hallucination. They believed me. I almost did, too. But sometimes, when I pass a certain stretch of road, I get that smell again, dust, rust, wet wallpaper. And sometimes, when I close my eyes at a red light, I see a single-room key in the passenger seat. No number. Just a tag that reads, "Welcome back." I never touch it. I don't look too long. Because I know the motel is still out there. Waiting in someone else's guilt. Rising from someone else's lie. You don't find mother because you're lost. You find her when you're pretending you're not. And she never forgets her children. Not ever.